We are reading Dear Martin for the first time. Today we're going to read pages 1 through 20. It starts off with a quote on the pages before an actual page. It says, I believe that the unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, December 10th, 1964. Part 1. Chapter 1. From where he's standing across the street, Justice can see her, Mello Taylor, ex-girlfriend, slumped over beside her Benz on the damp concrete floor of the Fresh Farm parking lot. She's missing a shoe, and the contents of her purse are scattered around her like the guts of a pulled party popper. He knows she's stone drunk, but this is too much, even for her. Just shakes his head and remembers the judgment all over his best friend Manny's face as he left Manny's house not 15 minutes ago. The walk symbol appears. As he approaches, she opens her eyes, and he waves, and he pulls his earbuds out, just in time to hear her say, What in the world are you doing here? Justice asks himself the same question as he watches her try, and fail to shift to her knees. She falls over sideways and hits her face against the car door. He drops down and reaches for her cheek, which is as red as a candy apple paint job. Dang, Mello, you okay? She pushes his hand his way. What do you care? Stung, Justice takes a deep breath. He cares a lot. Obviously. If he didn't, he wouldn't have walked a mile from Manny's house at 3 a.m. Manny's of the opinion that Mello's the worst thing that ever happened to Justice, so of course he refused to give his boy a ride. Ought to keep his drunken disaster of an ex from driving. He should walk away right now. Justice should. But he doesn't. Jessica called me, he tells her. That chick. Don't be like that, babe. She only called me because she cares about you. Jessica had planned to take Mello home herself, but Mel threatened to call the cops if she said she'd been kidnapped if Jessica didn't stop at her car. Mello can be a little dramatic when she's drunk. I'm totally unfollowing her, she says, case in point. In life and online. Nosy chick. Justice shakes his head again. I just came to make sure you get home okay. That's when it hits Justice that while he might succeed in getting Mello home, he has no idea how he'll get back. He closes his eyes as Manny's words ring through his head. This Captain Save-A-Chick thing is gonna get you in trouble, dog. He looked Mello over. She's now sitting with her head leaned up against the car door, half asleep, mouth open. He sighs. Even drunk, just can't deny Mello's finest girl he's ever laid eyes, not to mention hands on. She starts to tilt, and Justice catches her by the shoulder and keeps her from falling. She startles, looks at him wide-eyed, and just can see everything about her that initially caught his attention. Mello's dad is this Hall of Fame NFL linebacker. Big black dude. But her mom is from Norway. She got Miss Taylor's milky Norway complexion, wavy hair, the color of honey, and amazing green eyes that are kind of purple around the edge. And she has full lips, a small waist, crazy curvy hips, and probably the nicest butt Justice has ever seen in his life. That's part of the problem. He gets too tripped up by how beautiful she is. He never would have dreamed a girl as fine as him would be into her, or as fine as her would be into him. Now he's got the urge to kiss her, even though her eyes are red and her hair's a mess and she smells like vodka and cigarettes and weed. But when he goes in to push her hair out of her face, she shoves his hand away. Don't touch me, Justice. She starts shifting her stuff around on the ground. Lipstick, Kleenex, tampons, one of the circular things with makeup in one half and a mirror on the other. A flask. Where are my keys? Justice spots them in front of her black tire and snatches them up. You're not driving, Mello. Give them! She swipes for the keys, but falls into his arms instead. Justice props her against the car again and gathers the rest of her stuff to put it back in her bag, which is large enough to hold a week's worth of groceries. What is it with girls and purses the size of duffel bags? He unlocks the car, tosses the bag on the floor back seat, and tries to get Mello up off the ground. Then everything goes really wrong, really fast. First, she throws up all over the hoodie Jess is wearing, which belongs to Manny, who specifically said, Don't come back here with throw up on my hoodie. Perfect. Jess takes off the sweatshirt and tosses it into the back seat. When he tries to pick up Mello again, she slaps him hard. Leave me alone, Justice. I can't do that, Mel. There's no way you'll make it home if you drive yourself. He tries to lift her by the armpits and she spits in his face. He considers walking away again. He could call her parents, stick her keys in her pocket, and bounce. Oak Ridge is probably the safest neighborhood in Atlanta. She'd be fine for the 25 minutes it would take Mr. Taylor to get here. But he can't. Despite Manny's assertion that Mello needs to suffer some consequences for once, leaving her alone, all vulnerable, does not seem like the right thing to do. So he picks her up and tosses her over his shoulder. Mello responds to her usual delicate fashion. She screams and beats him on the back with his fist. Justice struggles to get the back door open, and lowering her into the car, he hears the whoop of a short siren and sees the blue lights. In a few seconds, it takes the police car to screech to a stop behind him. Justice settles Mello into the back seat. Now she's gone catatonic. Justice can hear the approaching footsteps, but he stays focused on getting Mello strapped in. He wants it to be clear to the cop that she wasn't going to drive, so she won't be in even worse trouble. Before he can get his head out of the car, he feels a tug of her shirt and is yanked backwards. His head smacks the doorframe just before a head clamps down on the back of his neck. His upper body slams into the trunk with so much force he bites the inside of his cheek, and his mouth fills with blood. Just swallows, head spinning, unable to get his bearings. The cold sting of cold metal around his wrist pulls him back to reality. Handcuffs. It hits him. Mello's drunk beyond belief in the back seat of her car. She fully intended to drive, yet Just is the one in handcuffs. The cop shoves him to the ground beside the police cruiser, asks if Justice understands his rights. Justice doesn't remember hearing any rights, but his ears had been ringing from the 2 blows to the head, so maybe he missed them. He swallows more blood. Officer, this is a misunderstand. He starts to say, but he doesn't get to finish because the police officer hits him in the face. Don't you dare say stuff to me, you son of a bee. I knew your punk A was up to no good when I saw you walking down the road with that hoodie on. So the hood was a bad idea. Earbuds, too. Probably wouldn't notice if he'd been trailed without them. But officer, you keep your mouth shut. The officer squats and gets right in Justice's face. I know you're kind. Punks like you wander the streets of a nice neighborhood searching for prey. Just couldn't resist the pretty white girl who locked her keys in her car, could ya? Except that doesn't even make sense. If Mel had locked the keys in her car, Just would have been able to get inside of it, would he? Justice finds the officer's nameplate, Castillo. It reads, though the guy looks like a regular white dude. Mama told him how to handle this type of situation. Though he must admit he never expected to actually need the advice. Be respectful, keep anger in check, make sure the police officer sees your hands, though that's impossible right now. Officer Castillo, I mean no disrespect. I told your punk A to shut the blink up. He wishes he could see Mello. Get her to tell the cop the truth. But this dude is blocking his view. Now, if you know what's good for you, you won't move or speak. Resistance will only land you in deeper. Got it? Cigarette breath and flecks of spit hit Justice's face as the cop speaks, but Justice fixes his gaze on the glowing green F of the Fresh Farm sign. Look at me when I'm talking to you, boy. He grabs Justice's chin. I asked you a question. Justice swallows. Meets the Officer Blue of Officer Costello's eyes. Clears his throat. Yes, sir, he says. I got it. August 25th. Dear Martin, a.k.a. Dr. King. First and foremost, please, no disrespect with the whole Martin thing. I studied you and your teachings for our projects in 10th grade, so it feels most natural to interact with you as a homie. Hope you don't mind that. Quick intro. My name's Justice McAllister. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior and a full scholarship student at Braselton Preparatory Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm ranked 4th in my graduating class of 83. I'm the captain of the debate team. I scored a 1560 and a 34 on my ACTs and ACTs respectively, and despite growing up in the bad area, not too far from your old stomping grounds, I have a future ahead of me that will likely include an Ivy League education, an eventful law degree, and a career in public policy. Sadly, during the wee hours of this morning, literally none of that mattered. Long story short, I tried to do a good deed and wound up on the ground in handcuffs, and despite the fact that my ex-girlfriend was visibly drunk off her butt, excuse my language, I apparently looked so menacing on my prep school hoodie, the cop who cuffed me called for backup. The craziest part is while I thought everything would be cool as soon as her parents got there, no matter what they told the cops, these dudes would not release me. Mr. Taylor offered to call my mom, but the cops made it clear that since I'm 17, I'm considered an adult when placed under arrest. AKA, there was nothing Mama could do. Mr. Taylor wound up calling my friend SJ's mom, Mrs. Friedman, an attorney, and she had come bark of a bunch of legal woohoo in the cops' faces before they'd undo the cuffs. By the time they finally let me go, the sun was up. It's